Please welcome Kathleen Warner.
Thanks so much. Can everybody hear me? So I'm still not used to being a part of government. It's kind of an odd place for someone who spent most of my life in the private sector. And so when asked to speak, come today, and particularly my title, which really rolls off the tongue, Executive Vice President for the Center for Economic Transformation for New York City Economic Development Corps. Is everybody still with me? I mean, that's just ridiculously long and so not innovative. So New York City, one of the most exciting, innovative, incredible places in the world, and really in recent years has been recognized as one of the preeminent innovation and tech hubs. And CET, Center for Economic Transformation, is a fairly unique beast within, frankly, any kind of government, where we view ourselves as an innovation lab, a think and do tank, where we research trends and data, we look at demographics and economies, we identify challenges, and we convene and catalyze stakeholders to secure commitments, and then implement all sorts of fun experiments to actually start to move the needle around those challenges. And then I have this investment arm as well, where we leverage and scale through private sector investments and partnerships, as well as through incentives program. So we explore, we experiment, we advise, we collaborate, we catalyze, and we innovate. And all to ensure that New York City remains the global center of innovation industries and inclusive growth. And we do that even though we've been told we can't. We don't, because that's not what government does. That's not what economic development does. So I'm from the government, and I'm here to innovate. So when I thought about the song that I wanted to walk on stage, and actually I don't remember if it was a song now, but all I could think about was Prince. And as you know, most of Prince's lyrics were probably completely inappropriate to actually play before I walked on stage. But when I thought about the man who was very influential on me as a teenager, as someone who defied convention, rewrote all the rules, consistently redefined what it meant to be an artist, a person, a black man, a philanthropist, a humanitarian, he paid no heed to how others looked at him or defined who he was. In fact, quite the opposite. He pushed boundaries, created music and world that were creative, exhilarating, novel, always relevant, and he made it okay and innovative and acceptable for so many of us to get our funk on. So what does that have to do with New York City, or government, or innovation? Absolutely everything. So what I thought I was walking out to was Hamilton. So I don't know if I did or I didn't, but when I started to think about Hamilton, it was for exactly the same reasons that I thought about Prince. Just stay with me on this. Think about the foundation on which our country was built. It was a crazy bunch of farmers and bankers and doctors who became revolutionaries, who redefined, in the face of all opposition, of what it meant to be a country, a government, what it meant to govern, by whom, and under this crazy radical notion that all people were created equal. All men, but that's another talk. So they took this big, crazy, bold idea that people said it was impossible, couldn't be done, and they did what, frankly, entrepreneurs and innovators do. They just did it. They went out and they did it, and they made the impossible possible. And frankly, it changed history as a result. So Prince, Hamilton, the Founding Fathers, New York City, and from what I know about Portland. Because when anyone, artist, banker, farmer, government, person, refuses to accept someone else's definition, or refuses to accept the conventional wisdom, the rules about who you are, what you do, and what you should or should not be, that's when crazy, innovative, impossible stuff happens. And what I would expect from a room full of people who are either building companies, starting companies, supporting people who are starting and building companies, I would suspect that you all understand better than most the notion that going full throttle for a crazy idea that somebody else tells you shouldn't be done, can't be done. Well, the only way what you do is you go out and you do it. So government. How many times do we hear that government is antithetical to entrepreneurship? Should just stay the heck out of the way? has no business in an entrepreneurial ecosystem. That government involvement is the kiss of death to innovation. This is a quote from the guy who wrote the Peter Principle about bureaucracy defends the status quo long past the time when the quo has lost its status. So status quo, a number of years ago for New York City, Wall Street, finance, viewed as a hub, certainly of financial services, fashion, and media. And subsequent to the time of the financial meltdown, we had a fair amount of skeptics saying about what government should be able to do in terms of moving the needle. New York was not innovative. New York was not considered a risk taker. Anything else? Anybody spend time in financial services? Consulting? Yeah, right? Total risk embracing people. Not at all, right? So we had our fair share back in 2009, 10, 11, that government economic development should not get involved with changing the course, transforming New York's economy. So we ignored all that and we just went out and changed it. So what we did though was we grounded what we wanted New York to be really in two pillars, around dynamic, resilient neighborhoods and advancing 21st century jobs. And so we took some of the traditional levers of New York development and we put it all through the lens of innovation and entrepreneurship. We pulled the levers that we had, real estate, capital dollars, diverse population, incredible anchor industries, and then we pulled together innovators and entrepreneurs and took a good, hard, curious look at ourselves and asked the hard questions about what did we need to do to stay relevant, to not rot from the inside out, which was happening to some extent. So we reinvented ourselves, defined the conventional wisdom about what a city or a city government should do simply by going out and doing it. So one of our biggest and most successful initiatives was around the applied sciences initiatives, where we had this cross-cutting, multi-sector, multi-stakeholder group of people come together and basically say to our academic institutions, you're not cutting it. You all kind of suck, Cornell, Columbia, not Cornell, but NYU, all these preeminent, sorry Cornell. Cornell came in and sort of fixed the whole thing, but talking to people like Columbia and NYU and Fordham, and basically told them they sort of sucked by preparing the students for the future. And to their credit, they stood up and did a bunch of programs and moving forward around both building a new applied sciences center, as well as other programs around computer science, and STEM to, again, prepare the people for the future. We also looked very closely at building dynamic neighborhoods. The heat center out of Manhattan was always really important, but then looking toward Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, and the Bronx, we had to diversify. We had to diversify not only by sector, but by geography and by demographic. So we started to build out a life sciences corridor. We looked at Brooklyn as a tech hub. We rezoned across the city and built out our waterfront as well. And today, New York is more vibrant than ever, with over 250,000 jobs created over the last couple years, since 2014, 8.4 million people, 4.3 million jobs. And now, while yes, still a fashion and finance hub and media hub, we are now, as I mentioned at the beginning, one of the innovation and tech heat centers of the world in terms of venture dollars coming in, companies started every day, number of founders. It's pretty incredible. And New York City economic development and the city itself has played a very significant role in this. And even in the last, gosh, I've been there about 4 months, we've lost some pretty incredible programs to keep innovating, keep being curious, keep moving ourselves forward, looking at trends, looking for threats, and looking, most importantly, for opportunities to future-proof New York City. One of the things that is in some ways so simple but so important was to change the path for visas for foreign-born entrepreneurs. And we partnered with CUNY, which is the City University of New York, to have foreign-born entrepreneurs resident within the CUNY system build out with hiring students and working with neighborhoods to something we called into NYC. And we're the first municipality across the country and have impacted both more companies started and jobs created through that. With our life sciences sector, again, building on our existing strengths of NIH funding, 9 academic medical centers, an increasing number of PhDs and tech transfer facilities. We both used our real estate holdings to build out some great wet lab space, office space, $150 million life science fund with about $10 million of New York City money, and then leveraging private sector dollars, funding bio and life sciences companies. And we continue to explore and experiment, partnering with the private sector as well as with other agencies within the government to future-proof New York City. Some of you may be familiar with this program called Best for NYC. I understand the city of Portland is using our efforts as a template to do some work here as well, working with small businesses to improve their business practices and workforce practices to, again, improve the triple bottom line for each of these small businesses. We also have something which, by the way, I was going to bring dollars out because I saw an article that says, I'm here to give you money. I am actually not here to give you money, but I thought it'd be fun to just sort of throw dollars into the audience. Digital health, we actually did give startups money as if they came with a health partner to launch programs to provide better systems and patient care and outcomes across the healthcare system. And we've also done a set of initiatives that are key to urban innovation, and New York as a quantified city. I know the gentleman who preceded me on stage talked about the Internet of Things. That's something New York City is super interested in, and we have this incredible test bed of businesses and people across a wide variety of geographies and sectors. So we're testing that out through something called Rise NYC, where we access federal dollars after Hurricane Sandy, again, to work with small businesses and startups. We do a lot of partnering. We do a lot of convening and partnering. That's really where the city is particularly uniquely situated to do that. And then Urban Tech NYC, same kind of thing. Our cities are our future. So how do we ensure that startups and founders and entrepreneurs who are thinking about how do we make this better, more connected, smarter, more resilient, that they have access to the resources that they need? So we seed a lot of that stuff and support it. And Future Works, building on New York's long history as a manufacturing center, but yet a tough industry to continue to do business in. We've created both incubators, co-working spaces, advanced manufacturing tools, and other sorts of programs to build on some funds we've set up for emerging developers and industrial developers. So the future, it's always about sort of staying a couple steps ahead. So again, quantified community. Hudson Yards is this huge area in New York City, and we've partnered with one of our local academic institutions, NYU, around metering, sensors, and other data to, again, collect and stay smart and stay ahead of some of the challenges that we face. And we constantly are both researching, convening roundtables around things like virtual reality, augmented reality, driverless cars and drones, machine learning, and then big data. All of these things have different applications. Things like VR and AR, whether within media or gaming, we're seeing application in real estate and life sciences and fashion. So it's really exciting as we look across emerging technologies, how they play out in the industries that matter to New York now and will matter to New York to the future. And we stole shamelessly from Portland, absolutely shamelessly, in building something that we're calling the Brooklyn Queens Connector, which is a trolley system. So one of the things that good innovators do is look to where other cities and other people are doing brilliant, wonderful things, and then taking it and making it their own in a way that works for the city. So thank you very much, and keep your funk on.
Hello? Yes. Hi, and
Tough
thanks.
questions now.
I've just got a few questions, then we'll open it up, and so the mics are there?
They are. We've got 5 minutes.
Okay. So, you talk to a number of people, and they say one of the roles of government should not be to pick winners and losers. Clearly, that's what your agency does.
Ish, yeah.
Ish? Okay, so how do you respond to those who say that's not the role of government?
It's bullshit. We don't pick individual winners and losers. I mean, that's the thing. What we don't do we do look at industries. We look at, we look at our assets. And it's something that I learned through the work that I did with Startup America, the work that I've done looking at whether it's academics or entrepreneurs. Where are the strengths? And the strengths of New York City lie within certain anchor industries. So we do place our bets, but we also do a set of experiments. I don't know if New York City will ever be the drone capital of the world, but it may have application to the work that we do. We don't place our dollars on a particular company, if you will. But we've been pretty successful, about it. We're told all the time that government shouldn't. Well, we did, and we've been pretty good at it.
And how, if at all, has the focus of your agency changed under the current mayor compared to that of Mayor Bloomberg?
That's a great question. I mean, the world is really different right now. I mean, when New York, when the center, and I'm going through this whole self-evaluation process, which I think is really, really important for us to stay relevant and significant going forward. When the Center for Economic Transformation launched, New York was really at a crisis point, losing, just shedding jobs out of financial services and media. And it was not at all innovative. And Mayor Bloomberg himself was an entrepreneur, a very successful one, and then the folks in EDC wanted to transform the economy. Good news, we did it. I mean, we've transformed the economy. So my work now and the work of the agency is less about transforming the economy, but ensuring that we stay connected to transformative technologies and ensuring that we remain innovative. So it's a sort of a fine point, but but an important one. And within this mayor's administration, he's recognized that piece of it, and also his focus has been more on a 5-borough inclusivity strategy. So the Bloomberg did amazing things, but there was a concentration in certain parts of New York City, like Manhattan and parts of Brooklyn. We're seeing now this spidering out, and actually under this mayor, things around life sciences and health, which has application to people's lives sort of up and down the income chain.
My last question, and then if there are any others. So when you're a market,
Yep.
like Portland, and you're trying to create as fertile an environment for the world of startups, what's the one thing that you find many markets sometimes overlook? It may be right in front of them and they forget about it. What's the secret sauce?
The entrepreneurs themselves, they don't listen. I think with government, you have really smart people who are very committed to making change and being very mission driven. So they often cook up these ideas without actually talking to the people who live, breathe, succeed, fail, and understand probably better than most about what they need going forward. They don't ask questions and they don't listen. So it's a lot of it's about convening and listening, spending some real time with people listening.
You have to, in your business,
Absolutely.
you have to like going to meetings?
I have to what?
Like going to meetings?
I hate meetings. I spend way too much time going to meetings. I do walk and talks. I do a lot more walk and talks these days. But I do a lot. You sort of set the stage, right? And then you listen, right? You ask the provocative questions. You push back, and then what bubbles up is incredible. It's just magic. It's absolute magic.
Any questions?
So I lived in New York for 10 years, and then I moved out here because, like you mentioned, the non-innovative nature of it. Worked in the financial industry. How do you combat the intellectual poaching that's bound to happen, and I'm sure it happens all the time, from the financial industry?
It's the financial district. I mean, the financial services is actually struggling to retain talent. So it's actually the opposite. It's a challenge that we're trying to think through. Post financial meltdown, the blush was off the rose, the sheen was off the whatever within financial services, and you can't throw a stick without hitting somebody who's starting a company, working at a company, who's an entrepreneur or a wantrepreneur, whatever you want to call it. So the culture has really shifted, but financial services still is an incredible employer within New York City. So what's been so fascinating is to see slowly, I don't want to say reluctantly, but slowly, this embracing that they too have to innovate and change. So the talent poaching it's the other way around. There's just sort of this drove of people not going to financial services, but instead going to startups and wanting to be in innovative companies. And I'm a Bear Stearns refugee, so I
You know
live
from
that
whence you
world.
speak. Any other questions? Kathleen is going to be around the rest of today and is more than happy to meet with any and all of you. How about a hearty Portland thank you?
Thank you.